Hello, how are you? Here we are. It's Sunday night. Usually we should be washing our hair in front of the fire. That's what we did in the 80s, not washing it in front of the fire, but drying it in front of the fire, kind of debating, negotiating with your parents. Hi, Michelle. Hi, hi, hi. All right, I'm going to be here all week, 7:30 every night tonight until Friday. I'm back. My baby is 6 months old now, nearly seven. I cannot believe it. But hello, hello. But this week, it's all going to be about visibility. And I've been reading quite a lot recently about the seasons and rhythms and all of that sort of stuff. And I feel like we're coming to the end of this February moment. And come March next week, we're ready to kind of start opening up again and enjoying that spring light, getting our message across, and all of that good stuff. So, if we haven't met before, by the way, just to let you know, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. I'm recording this as a video as well because I want to share the trainings. The thing with Instagram, if you're listening, I love you. But I don't want this just to be wasted for 24 hours. So I'm recording it as a video and also it will be going up on the podcast. So if you miss anything, just let me know. Also, if you want to ask me a question or if you want to share something and you don't want me to say your name, just don't say who it is, and I won't, because otherwise it will be recorded for the podcast. Just wanted to get that up front. All right, tonight and for the rest of the week at 7:30, I'm going to be talking about visibility. It is something that comes up so much for our clients, and it's been something that I've really struggled with in my own life. So if we're just meeting for the first time, well, we're not, but just to give you a bit of context to this. So many years ago, 20 years ago, I moved to London and I went to drama school for 3 years. And since then, I've been working professionally as an actor, but also have a coaching business. I have a podcast. I do speaking events. I write for various publications. And I've merged together this portfolio career. And when I was starting out, it was really difficult to kind of define what it was that I wanted to do, as in, like, I don't know what the next steps are, because this was at a time, it's the late 90s. I came to London with an A to Z book. Like, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have social media. I didn't know anybody who was an actor who was making money. I didn't know anything, and I was really making it up as I went along. So not only did I not have the logistics of how to do that and how to build a personal brand and get my story out there, and I guess get my face on the map. Hello, if you're joining. And the second thing is, I didn't have the mindset, because nobody I knew had ever done what I wanted to do before. And sometimes when we don't know what people's intentions are, or if we don't quite get what they're all about, it can, the way that people may respond is like, what is it? Like, they become a bit, not rude intentionally, but they might just feel a bit uncomfortable. It might be a bit triggering for them. Like, what are you doing? Why? Oh gosh, that's a bit different. And one thing that I've really had to learn over the years with this visibility is the two go hand in hand. So the strategy of, like, what are the next steps in terms of the framework? And secondly, what's the mindset that I need to have in order to actually do the stuff? And you know what? It's the second bit. It's always the second bit when it comes to us sharing online who we are, what we're all about, because we're not taught that. And even when we are taught that, it's usually just a framework, like, do this, think positively, show up every day on Instagram, whatever it is, just keep doing it. I go to so many events and people just say, think positive and, like, build your network and all these sort of generic phrases. And for me, it's about really making it feel, sorry, I've got my child's Jungle Book here. It's always been about, for me, about connection. Like, I have to really feel connected to what I'm saying and do things on my terms. And usually the way that I can differentiate this, and this is really hard to quantify and articulate and also help with clients as well, is that I know when I'm on and when I'm off. And sometimes those things will show up as in I will be putting together something. And sometimes it'll just be really jarring. Like I might be, I don't know, writing a new package for my website, for example. And I'll be going around the houses with it, and I'll write a paragraph and erase it and then come back to it, and then I'll be kind of getting all caught up on all the details. And usually that is an indication that there's something off with it. There's something that doesn't quite connect. There's something that maybe I'm trying to step into the template of somebody else. And so what I like to do always is go back to that gut instinct of like, okay, what is it? What am I trying to share? So tonight, to get to the point of what we're doing, visibility, it doesn't have to be scary, but it is essential. So a few years ago, even maybe 5 years ago, things like SEO or Google or being a blogger in London would get you what you needed to do. You'd go viral, you'd do a huge hashtag announcement, and suddenly you'd be all over the shop. Or, you would do, there might be a video that you are shown, I don't know, falling over or something. And then all of a sudden people are sharing it. Now, in this day and age, there is so much content out there. And recently I've been looking at things like TikTok, and, there's so many people dancing and grooving and doing so many great things. So hello, welcome. So it's really important that you figure out where you are in this visibility thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 10 things that might come up for you, and then 10 solutions or questions that you can work through that will hopefully help move you forward in terms of your visibility. Because do you know what? We need to see you, and it can be really tempting, especially at this time of year as well, to stay small, to stay stuck. It's cold outside, but I really want to see you and see what you're all about. Okay, so the first thing that comes up for a lot of people when they come to the visibility is they don't know where to start. And there's always that hesitation of like, do I start a podcast? Do I do videos? Do I do Instagram lives? Where should I be? Where should I be focused? And the mindset becomes all caught up in that I need to do this perfectly and I don't know what to happen, what to do. The second thing is, I don't feel like it. I tell you what, one of the most powerful questions that sometimes I ask my clients, especially when they're overwhelmed, especially when they're exhausted or they've got a baby, or, they're caring for elderly parents, or they've been ill, or whatever it might be. I always say, how can you support your tired self? Or how can you support your overwhelmed self? And really getting to know what you need. Because especially if something like visibility and being out there is scary for you, and there are things in your business and your brand that you would much rather do every day of the week rather than like press that publish button. I get it totally. I want to ask you how you can support yourself in that way when you don't feel like it. Because sometimes we can feel like there are some people that absolutely love it and are naturally good at it. And then there's us who are like figuring it out and have no idea. The third thing that comes up all the time is people will say video or camera is not for me. So sometimes that old belief can come from public speaking at school. When you had to be in the school assembly and you would have your 2 lines, or when you had to read out loud in English. And, I don't know if everybody else did this, but you'd all have a copy of the book and you would all follow along and somebody would be reading. And then I would always have that panicky moment of going, oh my goodness, I hope there's not going to be a word that I can't pronounce, or I don't know what it means, or I hope I don't mess it up. And the thing is, all of these things run really deep. Our body is like that onion. We have to peel away the things, and things get stagnant and stuck, and our mind remembers all the things. So sometimes we can just believe that video or camera is not for me. We feel like it's other. We feel like other people are good at that. But we know that actually video is fantastic for business. The fourth one is an interesting one for me, and it's something that has come up a lot. Nervous about being hashtag vulnerable. So in my family growing up, we weren't necessarily those types of people who would like tell everybody everything or like hello there would always be this thing my granddad always used to say about holding yourself, like hold yourself in public, don't like share everything with everybody and keep something for yourself in that way. And I think this is what the thing is now, is in order to stand out, we might feel like we have to have this pressure of being vulnerable or sharing every inch of our lives or going behind the scenes or vlogging or talking about our mental health. And those people who can do, or, you know, standing in your keks, having a photo taken, those people who can do that, I think are brilliant. But sometimes we can feel like we don't want to quite go live, or we don't want to go too public because we have that boundary and there's that conflict in terms of our brand, of who we are behind closed doors and who we are out on the internet. Also, things that terrify people is that sense of, what if members of your family see it? What if people who went to school see it? What if I don't know, an ex-boyfriend saw it, or an old work colleague? Like, what would you do then? Hello. And that fear of being seen, that fear of being judged can just be so much, really. Hello. And it can just be really terrifying. And that's another thing that can hold us back. Another block, I would say, in terms of visibility is sometimes people don't even bother because they think, well, nobody's going to notice anyway. And this is one of the things that comes up all the time whenever I do a talk or something like that. And you only have to go, you know, on my website and see some of the people that I work with. Sometimes I could easily get caught in this thing of, yeah, but I don't have swipe up, so I'm not even going to assume that that could be possible for me. So, for example, when I work with stylists, you know, I thought only people who were huge influencers who had book deals and 10,000 followers, you know, would get gigs like that. But I've worked with them twice and I have less than 3,000 followers. And I know followers are a great thing and they can sway and all that good stuff, but it's not everything. And so this is one of the things that I see all the time is people go, they're not going to notice me, so why should I bother? But you know what? You have to do it to be noticed. You know how it works. Also, there's a fear of not being polished enough. Again, like the TV world that we used to have, it was all about hair and makeup and like lighting and all that good stuff. And, you know, I've got a light in front of me and I've got a bit of makeup on tonight and, you know, that's all good. But it's interesting actually how you can use the internet, because being polished and being all of the things is not necessarily the way to gain traction, to gain customers. Sometimes it can be simply about connecting with people, talking about things, having conversations that really resonate with people. That's going to be a really great way of being, being in people's world. Also, sometimes there can be this feeling that we're not where we currently are, is not where we want to be, or where we're not hoping to be. So what have we got to say anyway? So again, you might be looking around and going, yeah, but I'm not like in a private jet, so I can't really talk about this, can I? And I haven't made 7 figures yet. Can I still be in the game? Sometimes there's that comes up as well. And one point on that, I guess, is all of these things can be flipped. All of these things can be turned around. So I want you to grab your piece of paper and a pen right now and have a look. And I want you to see if you can mind map and find some solutions that are going to move through these obstacles. So firstly, you don't know where to start. I always say to my clients, just start somewhere. Like, start somewhere that feels really good, that feels kind of obvious. And I think sometimes we have this fear that we have to move out of our comfort zone and do all of the things and really stretch ourselves and, go in deep, head, shoulders underneath. And we really don't. Start really small. Because what will happen is if you start with something, so say, for example, with your visibility, say you're going to start to make a commitment to post on Instagram once or twice a day, whatever it is, that's your first port of call. If you do that, and if you do it consistently, and if you track it, and then a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line, you have that nod to yourself of like, I'm doing this and I'm building momentum and this seems to be connecting with people and suddenly I'm finding my rhythm. All of those signals will give you the clues that you need and the impetus and the positivity to keep going. And that's what's going to happen in terms of traction, in terms of things sticking, in terms of people really getting to know you. What you have to do is just start with one thing. You can build your Pinterest strategy or whatever it might be further down the line. But in the meantime, it is just simply about starting. So I want you to ask yourself, what do you need to do to get started right now? And how can you move forward in this situation? The second thing I want to work through is what to do when you don't feel like it. So the tired version of you, the overwhelmed version of you, the person who would rather do anything else but show up on camera. How can you support that person who doesn't feel like it? Now, I guess there's two parts to this. One is, what are the signals that you know that you're procrastinating? So sometimes it could be, that you need to make a video, or that you need to pitch to something, you need to be visible and put yourself out there, but you're not. Maybe you're going, right, this is the moment when I'm going to clean out my fridge, or I'm going to rearrange my photo frames, or I'm going to move some furniture around my house that really doesn't need moving. Look at those clues and really check in and dial up the awareness on those and go, okay, this is me being a bit fearful here. This is me maybe shying away from what I'm actually supposed to do. So then what could you do to support that? So to take it a little step further, I want you to explore when you are likely to feel really good. So, hello. When are you likely to feel really good? So if you're in a rhythm, for example, if you're recording loads of videos, get them done. If you've got hair and makeup on, if you've set yourself, if you're saying clever things, get going with it, start and do more than one. So that's been really great for me in terms of batching. And certainly after I had my daughter, she was sleeping all day and that was really lovely. She was in that lovely newborn contented bubble, which was great. So instead of just, getting out there and networking or going to places, I wasn't doing that. I was barely leaving the house. But what I could do was I could speak on video. What I could do was connect with my audience and boost that kind of connection and content and all that good stuff. The third thing that comes up is video or camera is not for you. So if they're not in the first instance, what could you do instead? Maybe you could just speak as an audio, or maybe you could write something. Maybe you could have a photograph of yourself. So when people look at your site, they actually know who the person is behind the brand. I want you to explore lots of different ways. And again, a blanket phrase of video and camera is not for me will keep you small, will keep you stuck in lack and not let you look for other possibilities. And this is what it's really about, growing your personal brand, growing your business. It's about looking at different possibilities and really expanding your horizons, I guess. And one thing that I always do when I feel stuck or when I feel I don't know if I'm on the right track or not, is I go back to the drawing board of what am I here to do? Who am I trying to connect with? What is the stuff that really lights me up? And I go from that place. I go from that way of connecting. And then I get really creative of like, how could I do this in a better way? How could I do this so it really resonates and it connects with people? Number 4, when you're nervous about being #vulnerable. So we spoke a little bit earlier about boundaries and what that means, and that fear around really sharing who you are, and that fear that you have to share everything. And I think it's really important. Hiya, Lucy. I think it's really important that you know where your own boundaries are, especially with visibility. And I guess what's for sale and what isn't. And for me, I have really strong boundaries in terms of what I want to share and what I don't. So I've been really thinking recently about how much I want to share of my children, and progressively it's less. But what do I want to share about my lessons in business and in my brand and who I am? It's definitely more. And actually, when I show up at speaking gigs and I am vulnerable and I do share, and I do speak from a truthful place, that's when people connect with me. That's when people have their permission for their own breakthrough, for them kind of exploring options and going, oh, do you know what? It's all right because she said it as well. There are other things, mind you, like my relationship. My relationship is not up for grabs. And it's certainly something that we've spoken about over the years, in both being in similar industries, that we've never really wanted to work with each other because, I don't know, it's just a bit creepy, to be honest. You know, I think there's certain things for us that just feel better. Like, we'll just live our relationship offline and do that. And that's great. And I think this thing about this fear that when people go visible in that way, that they feel like they have to share everything. They're like, oh my God, do I have to be like Zoella and be there? Hello, if you joined in, and be there every morning, filming myself, putting on makeup, sharing what I've eaten and what stuff I'm using. No is the answer. You have to work with your own rhythm, your own way of working. And I will not be doing a day in the life vlog, because my day usually starts with, I don't know, me figuring out what day and time it is, 1 or 2 of my children being in my bed. Yeah, the mornings, they're not pretty. Number 5, there's a fear around visibility because people worry about what their friends and family are going to say, ex-work colleagues, or maybe an ex-boyfriend. This can happen all the time as well, girlfriend. And it's an interesting thing because I guess building a brand or putting your name on the internet in that way is people can easily find you. I'm sure people could judge you. And I think, not that I want to go too much into the details of this, but when a certain mummy blogger was sort of outed on this website, I felt this shift amongst my clients where people were like, well, if that could all come crashing down for that person who was really well liked and had a huge following and an audience, like, maybe I shouldn't, oh gosh, I couldn't bear that. Like, that would just be awful. But the thing is, the members of your family and your friends, it's not your responsibility to convince them of your business. It's not your responsibility to sell to them, I guess, and to tell them that you're onto a good thing. Believe me, when you are onto a good thing, when things are happening, when things are going in the right direction, everybody will come out of the woodwork and support you and get it. And I think sometimes you just have to do it, and then people will kind of follow suit. Actually, I had a call with somebody last week, somebody I met 15 years ago. And at the time, you know, when we were having conversations, we were talking about going out in East London. We weren't talking about coaching and building a brand or anything like that. So it just goes to show you just have to keep showing up and doing what you're doing. And some people will come with you and some people won't. Some people will judge you. Some people won't. Sorry, my phone is going crazy. All right. Are we equal? Okay, I'm going to take this out. So I'm recording on YouTube at the same time. Technology. Okay. Is anybody going to notice? So again, this fear comes up of, is anybody going to notice? Because do you know what? It's a busy world out here on the internet. And sometimes we can feel, especially as women, that all the seats at the table have been taken and that there couldn't really be space for us because, you know, there might be another PR expert, another yoga person. Like, surely all of this stuff has been said and done before. But I tell you what, if you can not be scared, and if you can be brave and really lean into what your version is and share your life experience and show up not feeling like you have to be a template of somebody else. Templates are the worst. You know what? When I see it as kind of online marketing of like, this is your template for success, I go, but you don't know anything about me. Why are you assuming that your template is going to work for me? And I get really skeptical about these things anyway. But I think in order for things, and going back to my point at the beginning of like things having to feel really good for me, like when I read a script, even if like years ago I played this really awful Glaswegian mother who had 5 kids and she was a very abusive mother, and she would lock her kids in a dungeon downstairs, not a dungeon but like a cellar. It was a really dark play, and it wasn't necessarily my typecasting, as you can tell, because I've got 2 small kids and they're asleep in bed and I'm not locking them anywhere. But in that circumstance, as an actor, I had to find something in that role that I connected with, that I felt like I could play that with truth. And I felt like I could really get to the grips of who this person was, and also stand in my truth as well as an actor. Hello, and stand in my truth as an actor and have that knowing, I guess, that who I was and what I was doing as that character was completely right. Like, this woman, Margaret, thought it was acceptable to lock her children down in the dungeon and beat them. Like, no, but I had to, as an actor, find that. So this is what I'm saying in terms of your visibility and your brand. You've got to find a way. And sometimes this is a slowly but surely kind of process of thinking, yeah, but what is, I'm going to try this. No, it's not that. And there have been things over the years that I've tried, and I've had to step back and go, no, it just doesn't feel good. Or, sorry, I've got hiccups now. Have I? No, I haven't. Yeah, it's one of those moments where you have to feel like you can do it and you can show up as the full version of yourself. So that sense of, is anybody going to notice? I really think they are, because the people that need to hear your message and need to connect with you will always find you. Likewise, when I started my podcast, I had the idea originally in 2015 when I was walking my son around the park, and he was crying. I was probably crying. We were both exhausted, but I knew that I had some ambition. I knew that I needed a bit of motivating, a bit of inspiration. And what I ended up doing was kind of Googling business podcasts, and it would just be full of men shouting and going, just do this. They all talk it this way. And they talk about killing it. And I'm like, no, I don't want to kill anything. Like, no, this is not the right vibe. And it took me 3 years to actually get to a place where I could really think about what I wanted to share and show up in a way that felt really good. And I figured out that I wanted to be motivated and inspired, and I wanted to share things that I'd learned, but I didn't want to deliver them in that way. And I sensed that other people out there might want to receive it in a way that I wanted to share it. And that has been so true. Like, I feel like I found my people. I get messages every single day without fail of like, I really enjoyed episode 163 when you talked about this, or episode 217 really resonated, or I love that person that you interviewed. You know, there's something for everybody. So that sense of being noticed is don't necessarily feel like you have to be swarming around and connecting with everybody. Sometimes the best thing that you can do is just stand there and turn your light on, which is the scariest option, obviously. Turn your light on and say, this is what I'm doing. This is what I want to talk about. Does anybody want to come and play? And that can be a really strong place to be in as well. The other point I want to make is about people stop being visible because they don't feel that they're polished enough. In fact, they don't feel they're enough, full stop. They don't feel like they're thin enough or, I don't know, shiny enough, big haired enough. Their clothes are not enough. And they don't have an Instagrammable house, or they don't do this. Totally get this now. Thanks to you standing your own achievements and power and your potential unapologetically, but not in a boastful way, just in a totally authentic way. Absolutely, Lucy. Absolutely. Yeah, I hear you. And I mean, I'm saying that flippantly, but that's actually the toughest. That's the toughest thing to do, to actually go, yeah, this feels really good. Because again, one point I wanted to make with this visibility is we were actually programmed not to be visible, weren't we? Like, mainly as women, we were taught to be quiet and to talk when listened to, to listen when spoken to, and to not be ambitious and to keep quiet and to play small and not get above our station. And I actually remember in my own childhood that I went to a teacher once asking for advice, and she sort of said that I was a show off, like that I should just get back in my box type situation. And I just remember thinking like, oh, that's such a missed opportunity for her to be able to help me. But secondly, as well, I feel quite proud of that 12-year-old who was like, yeah, I'm going to do it anyway, miss. So whatever, see ya, off we go. So this thing about being polished enough, I used to totally think this, by the way. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't do this unless I mean, probably my standards have dipped over the years, but that thing of like, I can't go on the internet unless I've got a great bra on, or I've got a full face of makeup on, or I'm dressed, and this has been the funniest thing, is that over the years, I've been like feeding one of my kids, or I've been wandering around in big pants in the height of the summer, heavily pregnant, and I've made sales, or I've had inquiries, or even companies that I've spoken at, sometimes they'll say, oh, we knew you were the right person because you made us laugh because you were doing this thing with your kids the other day. And I think there is this element of, and probably there should be moments where I absolutely should put on a bra before going on the internet. But, it is about showing up as who you are, because that's what we want. We want to connect with people. So I never want you to think that you're not enough, because actually people need you right now. And quite often I say this with clients is, even if you could get half an hour with Richard Branson, and you might think, oh my goodness, this is going to be game changing for my business, he may not even be able to tell you anything particularly game changing, because he's so far ahead in the process that actually he's lost touch with that position where you are right now, or he's never done that bit of his business. So he can't even say, yeah, just do this, or don't bother with that because that didn't work. So it's really about listening to yourself in that moment and going, okay, what do I need? How do I move forward? How can I set myself up for success? Another thing that comes up as well is this fear of looking daft, of feeling like you're not an expert enough, or feeling like there'll be somebody else surely for a job, or like this must be a mistake that somebody asked you. No, it's not a mistake. You are the person who is supposed to do this. And if you've had this idea, and if you've had this realization recently of what you're supposed to be doing, I don't believe that that's a trick or a joke or something to be taken lightly. There will be something in this that you can explore, and that you can be the person to share this story. There's been speakers that I've worked with and coach them. And they come to me talking about some really difficult times in their life that are really heartbreaking to hear, but they know that they need to share them. They know that by sharing them, they could really support somebody else. And sometimes that can be a really fine balance to package up in terms of a talk, because there is that thing, going back to what I was saying earlier about boundaries, that you don't, there's things, if I shared from my own life, like I don't want to just weep and cry on a stage in front of thousands of people. I want to always be able to share the lesson, and I want to be able to support and give people the information that they need. So this thing about being daft and not an expert, sometimes I find it's just another form of procrastination. We tell ourselves we're not ready, because if we tell ourselves we're not ready, then we don't have to do anything, right? And, we can stay kind of bumbling along and not really thinking about where we're going or what we're doing. And staying where you are is probably the safe option. It's the option just to kind of not stay small, but like it doesn't involve you. Like it's the equivalent of going from the sofa to the gym. Like the sofa is warm and cozy. You can put another blanket. I've got a blanket on the back of my sofa here. You can put a blanket on, stick the telly on, pop through to the kitchen, get some more snacks. Or you can go to the gym, which involves effort of like getting changed, hoiking yourself into that sports bra, going and sweating and like being in a loud environment, or doing something that's potentially going to hurt or you're not going to feel like. That's the difference between staying where you are now and truly owning the fact that actually you've got something to say and people need to hear this from you. And before Christmas, I did a gig with Nat West and Stylist. And I had that, why have they picked me? I'm not an expert. And because it was all about money. And somebody on my right was talking about how she'd raised £125,000 of investment to launch her company, Pippa Nut. It was Pippa Murray. She's a great woman. And then somebody else was talking about how she created a media company. Hello. And somebody else was talking about how she really wanted her company to have £1 million turnover. And there was me sitting in the middle thinking, well, I had a baby 10 weeks ago. I'm a bit worried that these trousers are not really fitting. I hope nobody's taking pictures of the fact my flies are undone. And also, what do I know? I haven't raised over 1,000K in investment. But as soon as I opened my mouth and as soon as I started sharing things from a place of like, actually, but what do I know? Like, what can I share? That's when I felt people move forward. That's when I felt people engage with me. That's when I saw people's hands go up going, oh, Nikki, can I just ask you something? Because it is about that connection. So don't worry about this expert status, because you know what? We'll hear people all the time, even if they've written 12 books about something, they might still not view themselves an expert. They may still say that they're still learning. So give yourself that permission to explore that. Another thing that comes up a lot all the time is your current situation is not where you want to be. So you might be looking and thinking, okay, I'm not in a castle. I don't live in a castle. I'm not at the end of my journey. And say there was a scale from 1 to 10, people go, well, I'm not at 10 yet, so I can't share what it's like at number 3 or 4. And I really urge you to do that, to share your journey as you go along. And I always say this about visibility is sometimes we need to see that peek behind the scenes. We need to see you doing what it is that you do. It's the Sex and the City thing. Sorry, there's police sirens going on. It's that secret single behavior from Sex and the City. Like, what do you do when nobody's watching? Sometimes that's the really exciting stuff that we want to see. That's why we're all so nosy on Instagram, like peeking around other people's houses and going, oh, right, okay, there's the bath. Oh, their living room's a bit big. This is the stuff that we can share right now. So don't wait until you're rich and famous, or don't wait until you've made it in bunny ears. actually, we just need to see it right now. And don't worry if you're not there. Your current situation is perfect. And this is the kind of the final point as well, which is about Bridget Jones. That moment where she leaves the party and Mark Darcy comes down the stairs and he says, I like you very much, actually, just as you are. And there's that moment where she goes, just as I am. And I think that is a really powerful line, because we will all have things that people that we will resonate with on the internet. We all have our go-to things. We all have our it's like when you go in the supermarket, isn't it? It's like the Nectar card or the Waitrose card or the Tesco, whatever. It's like it knows you're coming. They're like, oh, Nikki's going to buy bananas. She always buys bananas. She buys about 8 of them. Oh, I think she's got 2 kids because she always buys those kids' yogurts. Oh, grapes, in they go. She likes porridge for a breakfast. She's always going to have that. You know, it's these sort of predictable things. And I think by building up this connection with people, exactly, they know all the things. That's how you can just keep building connection of like being who you are, being the things that you share, and being the go-to person for that. You know, you don't have to make this really complicated. And sometimes people need you to be that teacher. So I always mention Miss Chell, who was quite a frightening woman, who taught me science from about, I think, year 9 to year 11. And she was great. She was quite terrifying, but because she was really strict, but I loved her, and she made science really make sense to me. And year 7 and 8, I was like, I have no idea what anybody's talking about. I did it in the slightest. And again, I needed to hear that information from her. She was able to give it, and I was able to get better. So you will have that as well for you. So we've covered a lot today. As I mentioned at the beginning of this, I'm recording it as a video. It's going to be live on the podcast as well, and I will upload it and all of that good stuff. And I'm going to be here every night this week, Monday through to Friday at 7:30, talking all things about visibility. And I've got some really great trainings all mapped out for you. But if you've got any specific questions, or if you've got anything that you you should be doing, or you want help, or you just got a niggle, please just let me know. Just email me or DM me on Instagram and let me know. I'd really like to incorporate it. Also, as well, I'm going to be opening my Speak Up program throughout March. And I did a beta version of this before Christmas with 20 brilliant women. And it was such a fantastic experience. I had journalists, I had healers, I had people who work for the NHS, I had medics, I had lawyers, I had entrepreneurs, I had people who created apps, all kinds of things. You can have a look on my website. I can't just digital strategists, all kinds of people. And I know that I want to go deeper. And now that I've got a bit of time, now that my baba is starting to have some food and I've got a bit more wiggle room in the day, I'm going to be opening up some spots for people to work through this program with me. So it's a fully living, breathing course as well. And usually, because I've just sort of changed it as I've upgraded it, there's usually 3 options. So option 1, you just get the course. Option 2, you get the course and a one-on-one with me. And option 3, you get the course, a one-on-one, and 4 weeks of support. Now, for the month of March, I'm going to be slightly tweaking it and just doing 2 options. So I'm going to do option 1. So basically, option 2 is going to become option 1. So the price, oh my goodness, how confusing is this? So usually okay, I need to figure out how I'm going to say this, because actually this is the thing, learning all the things. Basically, you will pay, if you want all the things in option 3, you'll only pay the price of option 2. And if you want all the things in option 2, you'll pay the price of option 1. It'll make sense. Go and have a look. NikkiRavey.com/speak up. That's it. Yeah, I'm excited to see who else comes into the mix. And I really wanted to offer with everybody that one-on-one session, because that's when you're going to get the juice. Because, you know, with courses and stuff, it's great because I can give you that framework, but to kind of follow. But there's nothing like saying it out loud to somebody of like, I'm going to do this, and like this is my thing, and I'm ready, and what do you think, and does this make sense, and all of that sort of stuff. So the course and the one-on-one, which is basically the option one, is less than usually one of my pick my brain sessions, just till the end of this week. But once the spots are gone, they're absolutely gone. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to work with thousands of people throughout March. There's only one of me. And yeah, if you want one, come and play. And also that 4 weeks of support is going to be great, because you can send me stuff. You can go, I've written this on my about page. Does it make me sound like a bit of a knob, or does it make me sound okay? And like, how can I put this together, and what's my voice, and how do I work forward with that? Anyway, I will leave all that with you. Go and have a look, and I'll leave all the links in the description bar as well. And if you want to go back over any of this training, feel free to do so. It's on the podcast, it's on my YouTube page, and I'll be back on Instagram 7:30, Monday the 23rd through to Friday the 28th. Thank you so much for listening. Have a lovely evening, and if you're catching on the replay, hello, and I'll see you soon. Bye.